Welcome to Blind Level Tech. This isn't just accessible tech talk. This is technology on a whole new level. We're showing you just how possible it is to live the life you want.
Indeed, accessible technology on a whole new level is 100% what we're all about here on Blind Level Tech. Anyways, welcome to the show, of course. I am your host, Evan Starnes, and I am joined by my co-host, Kelvin Crosby.
Hey, it's so good to see you, even though I can't see you. It's another beautiful day in the neighborhood. Evan, how you doing, man?
Oh, man, dude, let's see. I'm like trying to get into work mode again. I am a little bit discombobulated. Not as bad as last week. I feel like last week we really hit the ground running last week. We kind of just jumped straight into the episode, but I'm feeling a little more put together this week. I will say I turned 23 Friday, so yeah.
Oh, nice.
I'm a year older
you're getting
now.
old, man.
Yeah, I'm getting pretty old.
The craziest thing.
Eventually, it's going to sound like this. Welcome to Blind Level Tech.
The craziest thing is I got married when I was 23. And so that's like, wow. It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been. I always forget too. We don't really talk age much, but you're kind of we're a little. There's an age gap, but not a.
Well, like you're 23, I'm 27, I think. So no, 37.
Oh, okay.
No, 37.
I
can't remember how old I am anymore. But anyway, I think we should get into the tech piece of the day because I have a really important one. So you want to go first or I go first?
I'll definitely go first because yes, it is definitely time for our tech piece of the week. We didn't have one actually last week because
hold on, we need some sound effects first, right?
Yeah, we do. We do need the sound effect. There we go.
One. This one.
There we go. That was the right one. It was just a little quieter before. But yeah, so we didn't have a tech piece last week because we just wanted to kind of jump into the topic, especially because it was going to be a long one. But my tech piece of the week this week is the savior and the thing that is keeping me sounding clean and free of a lot of background noise and also free of a lot of chair squeaks. Goodness gracious. Sometimes it sounds like there's a trampoline or something. I don't know. But like if I move a fraction of an inch, this thing just makes all sorts of noise. But my tech piece is actually, if I haven't mentioned this before, Supertone Clear. It's a plugin that was originally free and it was called Goyo, and then it was kind of a beta, but it's a little bit pricey, around 100 bones for the plugin if you didn't get the discount. If you got the beta, it was like $20, but literally what it is a plugin with 3 sliders that allow you to independently adjust your room ambience, the amount of reverb or room tone, and also the voice, your voice itself. And it uses, I don't use this word very often anymore now because it's so used, but it uses AI to pick out background noises and things that you really don't want in recordings. And it does it pretty much. You apply the plugin, it processes it for about 10 minutes, and your audio sounds good. No messing with noise reduction or any of that too much. But yeah, it's pretty cool. But what's your tech piece of the week?
So mine is something that I learned this morning, and I we got to talk about this because it's not necessarily. So if you have an iPhone, right, and you have an Apple ID. So Apple is rebranding that name. So
Apple account. Yeah, it's Apple account.
Yeah. So this is where I want everybody to understand. So, and one of the people that are getting scammed by this are people that are moms, dads, and more elderly people, and people that don't really stay up to date on technology. So what I want to encourage you is understand it's Apple account, not Apple ID. Because that's what we're used to seeing when we get on the iPhones or whatever, our devices or whatever, and we're used to seeing that. But what's happening with the scams is that the people are saying, oh, we need your Apple ID, and and it's, people are getting caught up in these scams and giving out their passwords and so forth.
Oh,
And so
yep.
this is where Apple rebranded. It's still the same thing. Apple ID is now Apple account. So just wanted to give that tech piece of the day. Be safe while you're using technology. So this rebranding, for us visually impaired people, we can get stuck into this trap too. Because we get so used to hearing the same thing over and over again. And so something to be aware of. So yes, so that's my tech piece of the day.
Absolutely, and definitely watch out for those scams. And it makes sense now because you'd mentioned that to be at the beginning before we hit record. And I'm like, wait, Apple scamming? No, and that makes sense. People that scammers would effectively take advantage of people's confusion to try to do something malicious. But yeah, if somebody asks, if anybody asks you for your information and you didn't request it, obviously, needless to say, don't give it to them. Mm-hmm. We're going to have to do a full-on episode, really. I think we should do a whole episode on scams, though, because they're out there, and there's a lot of them. And they are, oh my gosh, yeah. They're getting really good in a really bad way. But anyway, what was definitely an experience was what Kelvin and I did last week. And this is more of a follow-up episode to last week's episode. It's going to be a bit of a shorter one because last week, I'll tell you, that might have been the longest BLT we've ever done. It was almost an hour. So we won't do that to you guys this week, but Kelvin and I voted and we had some experiences. And so we're going to share those with you today and kind of just talk about what the process was like and where we could maybe see some improvements in the voting system or the voting system for people with blindness or low vision. So I'll go ahead and just kind of start things off. I went to the Center for People with Disabilities in Boulder here, and they did have their early voting in person, and so it was interesting. So I walked in, and at first they were like, "Wait, no, we got Denver 7 recording back there, so you have to wait." And then somebody else was like, "No, never mind, he can come back." So there's a little bit of a goof up, but then when I got back there, everybody was very friendly, and they definitely knew how to how to work with people who are blind or low vision or anybody with disabilities. And so I wasn't being grabbed or whatever. But the first voting machine that they were trying to set me up on didn't work, and they couldn't get the voice guidance to work. So they ended up actually moving me to a second machine, and that ended up finally working. So I used the controller because you had the option of using the touchscreen or the controller. And I wanted to see how the touchscreen worked, but I use the touchscreen every single day, so I didn't really. So I used the controller, and filling out the ballot itself, it's fairly straightforward. The controller itself looks kind of like it almost looks like a Braille display. If you get so it's like totally rectangular, and then you've got big like pronounced buttons on the top. You have your up, down, left, up, down next to each other, and then to the right, I think you have your left, right. And then the thing that did throw me off, you have this big X in the center. That's okay, but it actually looked more like a set of arrows at first, so I was kind of confused on that. And then you have buttons for adjusting speed and volume, and they're all they have Braille underneath them, it was. You can pick up the controller like a game controller and hold it. I guess it does have like grooves, but it was easy to kind of navigate around. The thing that the issue I had though was that the voices that they picked, they had one voice. Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm curious about your thoughts on this because they had one voice that would give the instructions, and then the other voice that would read like the information on the ballot, and those voices were not the same in volume at all. So the instructional voice was so loud, and then the the informational voice was super quiet, I ended up just leaving my volume down because if I turned it up so I could hear it more clearly, I get freaking blasted by the instructional voice. Goodness, man, how was your experience in voting, Kelvin? What was that? Like?
How would you like me to talk like this to you? Would this help?
Right? Yeah, really loudly.
So I think one of the things is, I think this will help us all kind of process. So I voted in California, and come to find out, it's very similar processes that you guys have there in Colorado, but all polling places should have an accessible polling booth. So here in California, where it's to say in San Diego, because every county is different. And so that was nice. So I just went to the University of San Diego and went there, and my wife and I went in there, and I told I said to my wife, I said, I want to do this by myself, and I want the whole process to be done by myself. Well, literally right when you walk in the door, I'm faced with paperwork.
Oh boy.
And that's not accessible.
Yeah.
I'm like, so you're saying I have to tell you my information for you to put on that paperwork, and I don't know if it's correct or not, And so that's where I was like, all right, red flag there. Okay. So that beginning process already was a red flag because you got to put your name down and some other information. And so my wife helped me out with that. But then the process is, for me, you have to, you as a visually impaired people have to get this piece of paper that had a number on it. That number is on a piece of paper. So I could take out my phone and read the number.
Right.
And you're going to need to memorize that number. Because now to get to the ballot, you're going to have to then reassure that that number matches what's on the screen. Well, I had a fan base. It was just me in there and my wife. And so all the poll workers were super excited. Oh, it's a blind person in here. They're like, oh yeah, woo! Like, we get to try this new technology. Ooh, wow, yeah! Like, they were so excited. But the problem was, they kept trying to put a magnifier in front of me. They kept trying to do magnification. I'm like, no, I can't. That's not gonna work. That's just not gonna work. And so I said, I just want audio. I don't want anything else. And then I want the controller. And so we went to the first machine, and they couldn't get it to work. And what became really problematic for me was having to keep track of that number, my ballot number. And that was very frustrating because I couldn't keep track of that number. My wife is a numbers woman, so she was able to get it pretty quickly. And so because they put my number in a box, I guess that discards the number after you vote, we ran into some issues because I didn't have it memorized. My wife did. But then because it was they were having so much fun just kind of learning with me, and I was patient, I was being kind and educational and working with everybody. But then when it came time for me to vote and we got the machine working, I was a little nervous. Are you going to see what I'm voting for? And I asked my wife, like, are we good for me to vote? Because I don't know who's around me, and I don't want to be voting the way I'm going to be voting. And people know that I'm voting what I'm voting. So all that to say, the experience to get to the ballot was kind of chaotic. Did I work with the flow? Was I patient? Yes. And that was huge. And I got there. There was nobody else in there. So it allowed for people to learn how to use the machine with me. I was able to, the problem is we use the proper terms. What they're trained on are not proper terms. So that is something that probably needs to be educated with the polling office using terms that are correct that we use as visually impaired people for different devices, like screen readers. When you just say audio, what does that mean? Nobody knows what that means. So those are things that I started realizing, okay, so I got to understand what you mean by audio or text to speech or getting that information, because that was the thing that was driving me a little crazy. Was nobody was using consistent words. I was using my consistent words like screen reader, like text to speech. Those are the things that we use as visually impaired individuals on a daily basis. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that was one of the things that I kind of walked away and like, okay, there got to be a way to get people to understand. And the other thing is, from what I was hearing them talk about them as they were talking through the screen on the ballot, on the screen, is that even the terms on there are not normal blind terms for accessibility terms. So whoever doing the kiosk or creating the software is not using the proper wording. And so that's where, if you want a blind person to help the polling person, then we need to use the right terms. So like screen reader, text to speech, voice to text, or whatever, that's what I kind of started realizing. And so I'm curious, Evan, what was your experience in actually doing the voting process? Did you find that when you went through the ballot that it looped around? Did you get to the bottom and get back to the top, or get them back to the bottom? Like, what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, so my actual experience, like filling out the ballot itself, I actually I did have the option to block my screen, and so I did, and we got lucky there. Filling out the ballot itself, I had to go back and forth a lot, because you would go down the list of contests, I guess, and then you'd hear the information, and then I think you'd push like the right arrow to go to the choices, and then you see up and down arrows to select a choice, press select. I sped the voice up, but it was still kind of slow. It was slow. Yeah, it was. But again, I was still pleasantly surprised, only because, and I think the reason I was pleasantly surprised is that I could actually do it. Yeah. Because like, this is the first time I've actually been able to see a ballot and fill out a ballot. Mm-hmm. So, going down the ballot, each question was consistent. It worked. The machine kind of did it for me. It went through everything. And then when I got to the end, the interesting part was there's an option to review all of your choices before you print your ballot out. Yep. And if you forget to fill something out, it'll actually say like, you've reached the end, but there are warnings, which that is actually a nice quirk about, I guess, using a machine, though, because if I forgot to do that on a ballot, I would have had something blank that would have been it wouldn't have been counted. So I'm glad that the machine does that. And I think that's just a voting machine feature. I don't think that's specific to accessibility at all. But I guess the weird thing is I had to go like all the way down, like 30 something different contests until I finally found the print your ballot option. Mm-hmm. And then when you click that, it confirms like, are you really sure you want to do this? Do you know what button you're pushing? And it doesn't say that, of course, thank goodness. That would be condescending. Are you really sure you know what you're pushing? Do you know the power you have behind this button? It will activate a printer next to the machine, which that's exactly what it did. So I actually printed out the ballot, and I was impressed at because I'd always thought they were like, regular sheets of paper. These things are big. And so I printed that out, and then they even had like a privacy envelope that you could put it in that were directly to the right of the machine. So it was super nice, like walking privately over to the ballot box and putting the ballot in. All of that, the lady gave me her arm, and she, when you talk about terminology, Yeah, I definitely think there's a lot of misguidance as far as the terminology used, because even last week, when we were talking to Craig, I'd heard like speech to text and text to speech and stuff a couple different times. Like generally, if you're talking about like screen readers and stuff to somebody, I don't know, it's a screen reader, but a lot, I think if you call it like text to speech or speech to text, it will confuse people, like, because those are actual things, but they're so vastly different from each other. Because technically, speech to text is like it's like dictation or whatever. So I definitely do agree with you there. And I think my experience really was maybe as different as it is because I went to the Center for People with Disabilities, and they're already expecting people like myself or people in wheelchairs. They already.
Well, I think one of my biggest, so as we're collaborating here, what we're realizing that your machine was the same kind of kiosk machine that I use, and one of the things that drove me nuts in the Ballot, and when I'm in there, I like to move quickly. So
me too.
I was like, oh, president, senator, Congress, House, whatever, just Proposition 35 or whatever. I don't know. I mean, I'm just barking out things. But then when you get down to the bottom, then you hear review ballot. Well, if you just hit review ballot and then you go one more too far, you're back at the top. So it loops back to the top. And then now you have to go all the way back down because you can't go backwards.
What?
You can't go back where to go back down, which in a lot of ways you can do that. But in this case, you couldn't do that. Once you got to back to the top, you had to go through all the instructions again and then work your way back down. And then once you get there, don't go too fast.
Yeah, listen out for that button.
Yeah. So then, and it was the same thing for the review. That was a challenging one for me. Was when you were to go go read the review of the ballot, you have to listen to every single thing on that section. So let's just say, let's use Proposition whatever 5. I don't know, but you would have to listen to the whole detail, the paragraph about Proposition 5. Then you would get the answer one or yes or no, what you answered. And I was like, I just want to know if I said yes or no to Proposition 5. I don't want to read all the details. I'm just trying to review this. And so it took me a while to get that down. And then again, once I got down, you ready to print your ballot? Well, I went a little too fast and passed that and went back to the top. And so it'd just be nice to be a wall once you hit that print ballot and a button that said, oh, go back to the top to review again. That would be really, really nice. Because, like on our iPhones, we have the ability to swipe left and right. And once you hit the end, it's like a ding, 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 ding. Like,
yeah.
You can't go any farther. Like, this is as far as you can go. There's no exit. Unless you push the button. So, and so, yeah. So, like, for me, from the ballot standpoint, that was my biggest issue. Regards to, like, accessing the ballot, I think it just took me a couple of tries. And so I knew I needed to hear the word president and I needed to hear senator. Like, if I knew those two things, I then was in the right area. So then when I didn't know really how to interact with it. So in my case, you have to open it. So you hear president, you open it, and then you hit Joe Schmo, whatever you're going to vote for. But in this case, what was confusing was I never had to use left, up and down arrow the whole time. I just used left and right. And then you have to press apply to go to the next thing. And then open it up and then vote and then say apply and then go to the next. So that was a little bit, if you're a fast screen reader user, it was one of those like, oh, I gotta open this up Gotta close it up. Open it up.
Yeah.
It got a little annoying. But overall, I did it.
You
And
did.
I think
You
at the
voted.
end of the day, we both voted.
That's the thing.
And so the other thing is like I took my note. So my wife and I we had a plan. So she emailed me all the things that I was voting for in a line. So then I could then black out my phone and a swipe 1, 2, 3. So then I would know it would say president and whoever I was voting for, and then senator and whoever I was voting for. And so in my notes. So it would line up and I wasn't distracted by what order they were in on the ballot, so it didn't make that big of a difference. So I had my notes ready on my phone so I could hear through my hearing aid and then have the headphones on. Warning to everybody that's deafblind. If you have hearing issues, bring your own headphones.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have hearing issues, the headphones there do not work well for hearing aids. So that is one thing that I brought my own headphones in because, oh man, I would have been really, really difficult because I had to have it all the way up and I still couldn't hear well enough what it was saying. So if you're going to use this device, use the screen reader on your ballot, you need to bring your own headphones if you have a hearing loss. So.
Yeah, because they're on-ear headphones. I'm sure they're all the same around. But yeah, if you're not good with on-ear headphones, they just don't work. Yeah, just seriously bring earbuds or your own pair. That makes because.
And it's nice because you just plug it into the handheld controller.
That's the thing. Yeah, because the headphones were plugged. Yeah, that surprised me is that the headphones plug into the controller, not the machine.
Yeah. Well, and I think the other thing that was really interesting is if you pick up the controller, it feels like a video game controller. I know you didn't pick it up, Evan, but for me, it was like, I could just push up and down, left and right, and feel like I'm playing a video game by voting. So
it did feel kind of like a game controller. It was weird. It was like a cross between like a little braille display and maybe like a classic, almost like the brick style NES controllers from the 80s, like
yep.
a little more rounded. But it's interesting that the screen reader, I didn't even think about the screen reader not wrapping both ways, because it is common, depending on like if you use like JAWS or TalkBack on Android, those will, like when you get to the end of the list, like JAWS will usually say like wrapping to top, and then it'll go back to the very, very top of the page and to the very first whatever you wanted to get to. But it is annoying if it doesn't go both ways, and I think it might have been maybe more helpful when in the review process, because your choice, it'll read the whole thing and it'll say like, your selection is yes or whatever at the very end. I think what would be cool is just to have it read like the measure and then like like Proposition 24. I don't know. I'm just barking crap. It'll just say like Proposition 24, your choices, yes. And then actually start reading the information. I think that might make it a little more, easier for us to, at least when we're in the review process. Cause the first time since this was my first time filling it out, I actually did go through and I didn't just go bang, 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 bang. I actually went and listened to everything because I wanted to know exactly what I was voting for. And honestly, I did a crappy research job beforehand too, so it was kind of eating me.
Yeah, well, this is why I don't trust what's on the ballot. I don't trust nobody. I go do my own research.
Yeah, do your own research, absolutely. But yeah, one thing that doesn't require much research unless somebody opens Google real quick is the
Sandwich of the Week.
So I was at my friend's this weekend, and for breakfast we decided to get Wendy's. And man, if I've already done this one a long time ago, goodness gracious, maybe I need to go get my memory checked or something. But my sandwich of the week this week is actually a breakfast Baconator, because I didn't know that was a thing.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's
pretty good.
really good. Yeah, I forget what meat it was. I think it's like sausage, egg,
Sausage and
cheese,
bacon.
bacon, loads of bacon, delicious crispy bacon. So my sandwich this week is 100% a baconator, breakfast baconator from Wendy's.
Yeah.
So what's your sandwich of the week?
So my sandwich of the week is the breakfast burger from Carl Jr. So what's on there is a hamburger patty, hash browns, bacon, ketchup, and cheese. And I tell you, it is something to bite into, and it is awesome. So that's at Carl Jr.'s or Hardee's. I think it's what they called in some other parts of the country.
Hardee's. I've never heard of that. Yeah, it must be.
Yeah. What do you guys have Carl Jr.'s in Colorado?
Carl's Jr.
Okay. Yeah, because I think it's like split in the middle of the United States, where
Weird.
where west part of the United States is called Juniors, and the other part of the United States is called Hardee's.
Okay, that's weird.
Yeah.
Because I've heard of Hardee's, the name before, but I thought it was like a completely different thing.
No, it's the same company.
Oh, weird. I'll have to compare the two sandwiches, the Baconator versus the breakfast burger, and compare the two, because that thing's got hash browns on it. You can definitely sell me with hash browns for sure. But what should we sell people on before we wrap up this episode?
Well, if you haven't voted, go vote.
Yep.
Because your voice matters, no matter who you're voting for. Mm-hmm. That is the most important. And the other thing is, as people with disabilities, we need to exercise this right. Because if we do not, we're going to lose it. So exercise it, put it in action, and advocate for yourself to vote for yourself. Because your voice matters.
Absolutely. Well said. Also, I say absolutely a lot, and I'm gonna have to make a script that removes the times I say that phrase.
Absolutely.
I walked into that. Oh, shoot. But definitely well said. And just a reminder too, if you guys need any information on how to vote and or the candidates, definitely go check out the Center for People with Disabilities website at cpwd.org. And then as far as actually getting out there and voting, if you can't find Centers for People with Disabilities is only in Boulder, and they only did that once. So if you're having trouble finding good places to vote, definitely gonna echo what Craig Towler said last week. Go call, definitely give your county clerk a call, and they'll at least be able to give you some info on voting locations that do have accessible machines. Because I don't know here in Colorado if I don't think that's a thing. Not all polling locations have accessible voting. Again, I'm not entirely sure on that statement. And you also can, of course, vote online. Getting registered and getting that set up it's a little bit of a process, but if that works for you, fantastic. Because voting is one of our most important things, or one of our most important rights here, honestly. And we have the power to do it, and so we need to do it. And I don't have the stat, but there's an alarming chunk of the population that has, that's blind or low vision or has some form of disability that can vote and should. So get out there and vote. We definitely hope you guys enjoyed this little follow-up, and we hope that we've inspired you to do that, and at least given you some helpful tips as far as, maybe what to expect should you go to a polling location and do it that way. So with that being said, we're actually going to end this crazy train of an episode here. I look forward to hearing your experiences. So if you actually had a particularly notable experience when voting, let us know. Seriously, go ahead and email feedback@aftersight.org or leave a voicemail at 720-712-8856. We'd love to hear your experiences and, hey, talk about them maybe in an episode as well. Anyway, I am your host, Evan Starnes, and I am joined, of course, by my co-host, Kelvin Crosby.
Go live beyond your challenges and plug in your device.